Hello everyone, welcome to Education Nation. Today will be part 2 of the next digital economy. We started this a few days ago, got to 46 minutes and then my video cut out. I don't know why, but got to 46 minutes. I was hoping to do a shorter video and it just happened to turn out that way. It's the next digital economy report by Policy Horizons Canada, which came out in 2019, and we got down to about page 12 around here. So why don't we just continue reading the next digital economy, Policy Horizons Canada, 2019. The Internet of Things involves embedding sensors and connected devices throughout built and natural landscapes, collecting vast amounts of data about people, relationships, transactions, and the physical world. There are an estimated 10 billion devices in today's Internet of Things. This is expected to grow between 30 and 50 billion by 2020 and 74 billion by 2025. Artificial intelligence and advanced data analytics will transform the terabytes of data from the Internet of Things into usable descriptions of objects, events, people, and context. It will make decisions and give advice based on an increasing capacity to interpret meaning. The resulting intelligence about people and the environment could enable mixed reality in which a digital overlay interacts intelligently with the physical world. Robotics will play a larger role in many areas of the economy and could significantly reduce demand for human labor in sectors like manufacturing, agriculture, and resource extraction. In the coming years, some robots will operate autonomously and replace human work. Others may collaborate very closely with humans, amplifying our capacities and shoring up our weaknesses. Still other robots will be teleoperated by humans. Contrary to science fiction tropes, most robots will not look or behave like people. Telepresence will evolve from the current state of dialing in to one in which people will interact seamlessly with other people and machinery from a distance. Augmented reality headsets will enable one person to see what someone in another location is looking at and provide expert advice and direction to them in real time. This could include overlaying the other person's field of view with relevant instructions or graphics. Virtual reality will offer non-physical, non-geographic spaces in which people and machines can work, relate, learn, and consume. Mixed reality is emerging as smart glasses project images or data into a person's perceptions of the real world. This interaction of the virtual and physical worlds will create a third space distinct from both. Synthetic biology applies engineering principles to design and create living organisms such as bacteria, algae, and plant and animal cells, which can be directed to behave in particular ways. These organisms could produce traditional and new organic materials such as strong fibers, hormones, oils, meat, and pharmaceutical compounds at scale. This may allow bioproduction that does not depend on extracting natural resources from forests, oil fields, and grazing lands. Low-cost bioproduction could take place anywhere that provides access to simple and widely available inputs such as sun, light, water, and carbohydrates. Advanced materials are allowing the creation of micro and nanoscale devices that can bring digitization to many new areas at low power, expanding the reach of sensors and allowing computing power to be more decentralized. Decentralized production technologies such as 3D printing and assembly robots, could use locally available materials, including those made using synthetic biology, to manufacture products on demand for local markets. This could transform supply chain economics, potentially leading to some reshoring of manufacturing and even hyper-local production of custom goods. And finally, blockchain technologies allow the creation of unique, non-copyable digital assets. While best known as the basis for cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, blockchains allow registration of any asset that can be represented digitally. This enables secure, low-cost transactions for these assets between parties who do not know each other. In this way, blockchain could decrease the need for trusted third-party intermediaries such as lawyers and banks for many transactions. And so I'd like to now go to a few people who really know, have done a lot of research on this subject, more than I have. So let's listen to John Nolan from Inspired, the Inspired channel.
For an evening show about psyops, false flags, and distractions, this is what this month is about. This is October, is full of these things, and you're going to hear all kinds of announcement stories. The comet that's up there approaching Mars, I think, and the weird patterns, lights and gas and of course all of these things are interesting, but they are noise compared to the signals that are really beaming loudly. And this is really a sort of a matrix transmission. It's about what is happening in the matrix and what we need to know versus what is so loudly pronounced through all the channels. We have just lived through an operation that has captured people's attention for 2 weeks, which is not easy to do in this day and age, but 2 weeks, the Charlie Kirk assassination. And now, you know, the more time that passes as usual, the more absolutely crazy facts appear, just like this movie Snake Eyes, all these coincidences, all these new facts that are coming to light, and it always paints the same picture. But why, right? There are many reasons. There's not just one. But if something can, you know, activate people to be fully invested for 2 weeks, a lot of things can get done in that time. And this is what so often happens fall, October, in the world of politics, in the world of finance, technology. Everybody's back to business. The summer lull is over. And so a lot of important things in conferences, meetings are happening in October. People are getting together. But there's only 3 major subjects that you need to pay attention to. These are the 3 signals that tell you where we are on the timeline to this dystopian goal of this one world order that's still in place and where the matrix is going. So 3 things that you need to think about when it comes to that and pay attention to: digital ID, digital money, and the merger of biology and technology. Those are the 3 things. Nothing else matters in this, and pay attention to. Digital ID, digital money, and the merger of biology and technology. Those are the 3 things. Nothing else matters in this world today any longer, really. And that is sad to say, because there are a lot of important things. But when the 3 things that I just mentioned, digital ID, digital money, and bioconvergence, so the merger of technology and biology, when they happen, that's the game over point, right? So wherever that...
Okay. And let's go back to okay, this one here. This is Whitney Webb. We'll see what Whitney Webb has to say about Bitcoin, blockchain, digital currency.
Much of it will not work if we do not digital ID get us to voluntarily want to adopt it. And we have to focus on the fact that if digital ID does not succeed and people do not comply, it will fail. I mean, it is the cornerstone of like the entire UN Agenda 2030. Without it, the programmable surveillable money won't work. A lot of their designs for what they want to do in the online virtual world will not work. And so much of it will not work if we do not comply with digital ID, and they're trying to force it on us as a voluntary thing. Sort of in the same way that vaccine passports were voluntary. Which is why I encourage people, if you want to change the direction the world is going, you need to figure out how you are going to set up your life so you don't have to comply with digital ID the same way, maybe if you were forced to comply with vaccine mandates and vaccine passports, how will you get around those type of restrictions when they try and impose, digital ID on people for various reasons? As I said earlier, before it was about, the vaccine and all of that. Now in the U.S., conservatives mainly are being pitched as this is a solution to illegal migration. This is a solution to voter fraud and all of this stuff. There's efforts to frame biometric digital ID as essential to solving cybercrime and hacking and cyberbullying and any other normal of essentially any ill of society. They're just going to say digital ID is going to be the solution to that, and they're sales pitches. But ultimately, if we, the digital ID is essential to the whole idea of the social credit score and any of these other, Orwellian designs that, at least enough people I hope know by now, is part and parcel of this agenda. And I think, again, it comes up to people having to make a choice. And the way they do this is through, they try and get us to comply with this is through convenience. It's convenience to opt in. It's convenient to have a digital ID. It's convenient to have, money on your phone and have your whole life be based on your smartphone.
Listen, while they're distracting people with big headlines, the insiders are getting ready. Billionaires. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025, and we're going out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. Thanks for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube in the live chat all over the world. You beautiful people, seekers of truth and freedom. Thank you to our wonderful moderators, Ronnie and Raymond, aka Two Steps Behind. Love you guys, and we so appreciate your wonderful work. And of course, my beautiful and very wise wife, Christine, has inspired in the live chat. Alrighty, friends, we're going to dive into this digital ID. Digital identification is everywhere. It's in everyone's mouth right now. It is already implemented in many countries of the world. Vietnam just had a big, sort of rude awakening when 86 million bank accounts were deleted overnight because they weren't attached to biometric identification. However, many people are aware of the present and future dangers of digital IDs, but very few are aware of the spiritual implications of digital ID as a continuation of identifications that have been around for quite some time, of course. So we really want to unpack this concept from a spiritual perspective and sort of give informed consent as to what is happening here. Make no mistake, there is no country in the world that is not working on it. And people say, well, maybe if the good guys do it, it won't be a problem. That historically hasn't really worked out so well. But I want to really begin to talk about the concept of identity itself and what that actually means. So let's look at this here together. What is identity? Where does that even come from? What does that actually mean? And identity comes from the Latin word identitas, meaning sameness, derived from the verb iden or the eden, meaning to be equal to or to be identical with, related to the Latin word idem, meaning the same. And here we have the first clue that we should realize that when we talk about identity, somebody is saying you are equal to whatever comes after that. So you are equal to the name that's on this little plastic card that's spelled out, and the birth date and whatnot. And that is the first hijack that happens. And I really want to, for those who've never heard this, it's going to be mind-blowing. For others who've heard this, it's going to be a great reminder. And we're going to lead it all the way to the digital ID and what that actually does spiritually and what the idea behind it is. And then you can make a decision, then you know, right? So let's dive a little bit deeper. What happens when somebody is born? When a child is born, they emerge in this world as a living, breathing being of flesh and bones, blood and soul, right? Very important. That's how we appear in this world. And you are what you are. You are who you are when you appear. That's you, right? I'm not saying you are the body, but you're the totality of the body, the flesh, the soul, the spirit in that moment and for the time that you're here. However, something else happens and has been happening now for a long time. Your birth, your arrival, when you come, the new shipment, if you will, because this is all, my friends, everything that we're talking here, it's commercial law, it's maritime law. So everything has sort of these maritime terms. You come through the birth canal, and then, you know, the new arrival, the shipment needs to be documented, needs to be registered, right? So what is a registry? Well, that is the listing of all the king's possessions, right? That's what the registry really is. So then your birth is registered. Now, then something happens, something strange. An identity is created. Now, if your birth, for some reason, is not registered, if someone's birth is not registered, which happens a lot, actually, more than you think, that identity is not created. And in the eyes of the system, that being does not exist. It's a very interesting thing. I'm going to show you a clip from a movie from 1948 in a moment here that beautifully shows just how insane the concept is. But so an identity is created. That's when they create a birth certificate. That's when they put your...
Okay, that's John Nolan from Inspired. I'll leave the links to him down below. And why don't we go check out
G and B before buys the mainstream. Most people, they're on their chat GPT, or they're just using their computers, their social media, playing video games, being stressed out about all the trauma with these are the days of our intelligence community lives with the White House. So when the shots came out and everything was weird, they didn't even blink an eye because they were so distracted with aliens, the MH370, everybody fighting over viri, no doctor could get their story straight, and nobody talked about technology and the biodigital convergence except a handful of people. And some people tried talking about NASA 2025 and all this, but they didn't explain the technology, so they ended up in the conspiracy circles. That's just social engineering again. So, since we've all been working on this nanotechnology for things like golf balls, baseball bats, stain-resistant clothing, glass coatings, and we have a national nanotechnology initiative that is not tethered to a singular administration, then I suppose they would...
Okay, that's Sabrina Wallace from the Synergy channel. She's on Odyssey. That's PSINERGY, I believe, and I'll leave the links to this video. This is from Non-Vaxxer 420's station, and I want to continue playing this one. And while I go back to the next digital economy paper we've been looking at, and I'm just gonna play her, and I'm just gonna, while I play her, I'm just gonna scroll down through and get through this Policy Horizons report from
It would
2019.
be helpful for folks to know that their upgrades are the body area networks. Why? Because our bodies naturally generate and communicate molecularly, how the bees signal the flowers, on this teeny tiny nano level. So instead of having to create a whole new system of internet connected data center technology, they connected human bodies through our own photons. The same photons they're running underground to reflect the light back and forth, with the same signal processing they do for 19 years with our biosignals. Biosignals are measurable signals from living organisms that reflect biological phenomena derived from electrical, mechanical, chemical, or other activities like heartbeats, muscle contractions, or brain waves. Okay? So what they've done is, because they've been at this for so long, they've just went ahead and upgraded their systems in the data centers underground for a while now with quantum technology, and by a while I mean the 80s. Here we have 19 years of wirelessly looking at everything you see in this bubble. You do not need a chip, a pacemaker, a wearable. Nope. There we are, measuring all of it. Now these photonic chipsets underground, they're using photons as well. So anytime you hear quantum, think photons. Now you have a bunch of nodes walking around, that would be human bodies, body area networks, that communicate naturally and quantumly process naturally through our skin and our interstitium and fascia, and that's how everybody ended up connected to their cloud systems, because they didn't bother to tell anybody that for 19 years that's exactly what they've been working on. When they shut down the remote viewers and opened up body area networks, it happened in 1995, in the same year. Yeah, because the remote viewers were helping them connect bodies. The W-band goes back to 1971. The Marine Corps knew all about it too. They've just all been very busy connecting bodies. So here we are in December 2019, converging nanotechnology and digital currencies. It was a great pleasure and honor to be the keynote speaker at the World Digital Currency Forum on the 16th of December 2019 in Hong Kong. It was a great opportunity to share with everyone at the World Nano Foundation Global Economist something. Hang on. Yeah, with a colleague from the World Nano Foundation Global Economist. Okay. It was a great opportunity to share with everyone the extraordinary innovation nanotechnology and digitally assets, digital currencies, can deliver for our economies and the planet, 2019. More importantly, these complementary technologies are now converging, bringing the physical and the digital together. Nanotechnology first came into the public consciousness about a decade ago, but that would be 2009. But nanoscale innovation has been developing for many decades. Nanotechnology lets science and industries operate at below molecular level, allowing us to change the rules of physics, chemistry, and biology. Now, just stop for a minute. We all know of the naysayers who say there is no nano, it doesn't exist, there's no Internet of Bodies. Those are the same people that have been gatekeeping the body area networks. So now you have to stop, and you have to wonder why. Everybody knows the body's electrical. Everybody knows that are in these industries, this is what they've been working on. Everybody knows that we have pacemakers since the 80s. But nobody's willing to admit HOW, it works. But they want you to believe. Just click your heels and read the book of Revelation over and over again. Or the MH370 videos, just watch them over and over again. They want you to go slap your wearable on, and if you ask how it works, shut up, we're busy. You don't need to know how it works, you just need to do what you're told. Okay? So when people tell you there's no biodigital convergence, there's no nano, they are obviously coming from either the wrong information or they're purposely gatekeeping. That's all you got. We don't have all these imaginary people walking around that legitimately are so incredibly dumbed down that they don't know their heart is electrical. Although I do notice that people are trying to engender that. They're trying to bring that back too. And I don't understand why, so I'd recommend just stay out of it. But nanoscale technology is 100,000 times smaller than a human hair and can transform and enhance any physical or digital asset, allowing them to collectively create extraordinary innovation with positive outcomes for sustainable life and economies. The World Nano Foundation's aim is to commercialize the ready-to-go nanotech innovation through smart investments, smart technology, infrastructure, and strategy implementation. This will help to ensure we create a far more decarbonized, decentralized, and digitalized global economy. We shared with the audience some of the areas of nanotechnology that is creating a complete change for almost every industry type, as well as accelerate and secure our digitized future. Nanotechnology impact on digital assets, quantum dots impact on the blockchain. As part of my talk, I highlighted one example of how the combination of the blockchain and nanotechnology can be applied to particularly challenging aspects of supply chain management, namely the huge global criminal marketplace and counterfeit goods. This, as we know, really hurts business profits, impacts brand trust, and undermines customer relationships. The counterfeit market alone is $1 trillion global business, and something that a more secure digital asset can potentially eradicate using nanotechnology-based quantum dot as the foundations of any transaction of a physical or digital asset. This is even more foolproof than a DNA fingerprint. That would be your NEMS, BEMS, MEMS. They're all sorts of sensor technology they've been running since Vietnam. The Vietnam War era, rather. As most would know by now, a blockchain is a type of database that is tamper-proof. Data stored in a blockchain cannot be changed. The technical term is immutable. It can be shared among multiple users, and significantly, the composition of the data stored is agreed to by multiple users of the blockchain before it can be stored. This process is known as consensus. In short, blockchains, as the world is finding out, are an incredibly secure way to keep information safe and consistent among multiple participants in a business network. So they're worried about counterfeit goods. We have many different types of quantum dots. The World Nano Foundation has companies who have developed highly sophisticated nanomaterials, plural, in the form of quantum dots over the past decade. Quantum dots are nanoscale semiconductor particles that possess notable and extremely useful optical and electrical properties, and they generate light when energy is applied to them. There are a ton of variations of quantum dots, not just one. This is how your NFTs work. Welcome to your highly disruptive nanomedicine. We also shared with the audience how health and well-being is being sold as healthcare for everyone, and as we are seeing almost every government pledging to invest more in healthcare resources and infrastructure. The recent International Longevity Conference we attended highlighted that there should be a complete reassessment of where healthcare budgets are deployed, due in part to our aging populations. In fact, only a small percentage of government health budgets goes on preventative medicine or diagnostics. This is where, again, the advent of nano-enabled diagnostics or biomarkers is so important so that we can track our health more accurately in real time rather than any traditional or outdated cumbersome centralized systems, outdated cumbersome doctors, or outdated cumbersome hospitals. Newborn babies, elderly people, sick hospital patients, and sports enthusiasts all stand to gain from the development of wearable technology using nanomaterials, linking it back to a rewards and loyalty system using digital assets and the blockchain. These products will bring about the next golden age of healthcare by allowing the public and medics to be alerted remotely in real time to changes in a patient's health. These nanoscale devices will provide early warning systems for a range of people: poorly patients on busy hospital wards, elderly people in care homes at risk of falling or sudden illness, those at risk of anaphylactic shock characterized by a sudden drop in blood pressure. By spotting changes in pulse, blood pressure, joint movement, and respiration rates, these products could identify sickness before external symptoms reveal themselves. In that way, a patient could be helped sooner. The blockchain and digital assets have the ability to work together with nanosensors to alert the individual of any actions that would improve their health and well-being, again, in real time. A digital currency or asset could reward that community for positive actions or activity. Community, not just a singular person. Your choices will be influenced by the choices your neighbors make. So is your social credit score. Reward that community for positive actions or activity and vastly reduce the burden on our healthcare systems. These nanotechnologies could also stop future pandemics happening, as the spread of disease will be stopped using smart data and testing on the move, as well as having nanomedicines that can treat the root cause. One more time, COV-WBAN. Tracking the COVID with wireless body area networks to control the outbreak using those bioelectromagnetically measured algorithms, and for the long-term sustainability of the sensor devices, the development of the energy-efficient wireless body area network is critical. To address this issue, a long-range LoRa-based Internet of Things program is used to receive biosensor signals from the patient and transmit those biosensor signals from the patient to the cloud directly for monitoring. Why didn't we ever hear about this other than on the Synergy channel? Nobody else would talk about it. It's been there since 2021. I brought it up in 2022. They said, shut up, you're too angry. We don't want to hear about it. We're not interested in anything you have to say because we're still arguing over viruses. That was in 2022. Nobody could get a word in edgewise about anything other than viruses. The World Nano Foundation defines these as enabling technologies where different technologies combine to create extraordinary leapfrog opportunities for the global community to change the dynamics of an entire healthcare ecosystem. This would create massive reduction in the cost of healthcare and make the whole world healthier and more sustainable. Nanomedicine, potential impact on degenerative diseases. There is an immense societal and economic need to treat degenerative and autoimmune diseases. The World Nano Foundation is working with partners who are exploiting nanotechnology to turn the tables by creating nanomedicine. Take the stemness out of stem cells. Recognized by global awards, this company is now working alongside the World Nano Foundation as it moves into clinical trials, leading the world to treat previously untreatable diseases. Patients will receive an intravenous injection of the synthetic stem cells, LIF-loaded nanoparticles, just like the FCC.gov tells us, predicted to rapidly enter the brain through natural pathways at the blood-brain barrier that are specific for LIF-loaded nanoparticles. All part of the unique design, covered by patents and suitable for production at scale with minimal effects on the environment. Nanotech and digital assets with 5G. 30 years ago, at the start of the digital revolution, mainframe computers could only cope with what a typical smartphone can process in less than a fraction of a second, and this is because of the highly powerful nanosensors embedded in our modern smartphones. With the advent of 5G, then 6G, 7G, and beyond, nanotechnology will allow incredible amounts of data to pass via digital assets in a nanosecond. However, many countries are now gearing up for 5G by digging up most of our cities to put in new, faster fiber optic cable. It is our view and many others that this fiber optic cable will become obsolete within a few years as millimeter wave technology, using nanoscale innovation, will allow us to transmit unlimited amounts of data safely through the airwaves rather than via cumbersome fiber cables. Welcome back to photonics. Quantum. Yeah, light. High-speed optical, 1991. Without the associated cost and disruption to our urban infrastructures. Redundancy networks. This will be much faster and cheaper. Virtual fiber network, dark fiber, that will be able to communicate, process, and deliver securely to any digital ecosystem or asset within a nanosecond. The financial benefits on our future smart cities and infrastructure and economies will be unprecedented. The fusion of tech ecosystems, what the next generation will face by 2050. We have to embrace these enabling technologies as we have a population that's going to grow from 6 to 9.7 billion in less than 30 years. We have governments promising healthcare investment for everyone in an unsustainable centralized model that creates the worst outcomes for everyone. More of the world's population are living in our urban cities, and we need these converging technologies for life to function sustainably. So the transhumanists have backed everyone into the corner with their new digital healthcare. And nobody bothered to mention that this is transhumanism. They lied right to our face and told us it wasn't here and it didn't exist. That includes your distributed ledger technology, that your Bitcoin is not here, it's not practically usable, your wallet is a hallucination. AI's not here, it's not usable, there is no chat GPT that is practical. There's no practical use for stem cell therapy, cancer vaccines, 3D printing. All these technologies whose development, practical applications, or both, are a Kurzweilian fantasy. And that's how they got away with all of this with companies for 30 years, because people out there were paid to obfuscate, gatekeep, make up stories, and use the wrong terminology so that anytime anybody spoke up properly, they would be told these are emerging technologies whose development, practical application, or both are just not here. They're largely unrealized. It's not practical to use a Bitcoin wallet. It's not here yet. AI is not practical in use. It's not like the DoD told everybody to get AI in everything they do back in 2020 and 2021. They don't even know what they're doing. These technologies aren't even developed yet. They've only been talking about nanotechnology since 1959. They've only been using our tax dollars for 25 years. They're transhumanists. They're stupid, remember? They write sci-fi books and pretend. They're the billionaires of the world with a new religion right here in AI and dominating other human bodies, using our own biology against us. We're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to learn about it. But that's because it's all a fantasy. It's not really happening unless you're dealing in real business and market share. Oh, they invert everything. No, they just lie because it works. A lot of people don't want to hear about this stuff because they don't want to admit it's going on either. Can you blame them? So, what the next generation will face. There are now 7 billion smartphones in the world. And we will have over 1 trillion nanosensors in operation by 2025. That's your trillion sensor technology with your cyber-physical, NIST, and your Department of Commerce that they've been running for 3 decades at least, if not 5. And by 2050, we will have more plastic than fish in the seas and the water table. Thus why they want to have the sustainability connected with all those sensors to use the nanotechnology at the nanoscale in order to just clean up all the different cells in the world. We've heard about the impacts of climate events, and we have to make better decisions using a combination of nanotechnology and digital innovation. So instead of admitting that they've been already playing with the weather, filling up the soil, bioengineering synthetic biological entities, bioengineering animals, hybrids, cyborg technology, wireless tissue engineering. No, it's all our fault. And because they love us and our population is going up, we're going to have to use, because we're using too many antibiotics and other pollutants due to the overproduction of animal-based foods. So because we're polluting the world with farming, we have to eat the bugs and eat the synthetically made butter like Bill Gates just came out with. And what a great way to keep people from trusting any meat products by filling all of our deer and natural game like rabbits and squirrels with horrible, ugly-looking warts and sores on soft tissue viri that's really easy to do. These technologies can reverse all of these problems if we act now. The plans for global centralized-based infrastructure investment are $97 trillion by 2040. and it's not productive or sustainable. So we're going to decentralize by using human bodies as the new networks, because we naturally biosignal report on ourselves simply by breathing. Looks like we have a little video here. World Nano Foundation at the World Digital Currency Forum in Hong Kong. Well, there they are. Apparently, that would be your Illumidonkey. I don't see any reptilians. I don't see a lot of people in robes. I see business. I see networking for business. I see company names. I see humans with placards around their neck for where they're going. Looks like a professional conference in a professional conference hall. That's what it looks like. World Digital Currency Forum. So no Reptar, no clones that we know of. It doesn't look like they're advertising that at this one. So this is what, they're going to have a fit over that symbol being there. But this is what I mean. It's all their Knights of Malta type of stuff. You can talk about all these secret societies till you're blue in the face, but if you're not willing to engage business and market share, then the quote-unquote normies and all the other people in the world, they're not listening. Because we've had conspiracy around since JFK, and apparently there's a bunch of people still hung up on that as well. We need to get moving into the future for the sake of our children and our own brains. We need to stop letting people play games with terminology by simply calling things what they're not. Now, somebody sent this over, and this is from the...
Okay, I'm going to continue here with paper Canada, another paper that came out in 2019. I just had it here a second ago. I just had it here a second ago, and it's also from... Is it? Oh no, this is another Policy Horizon brief. This one came out in 2018. Why don't we look at this Policy Horizons Canada 2018 Blockchain Technology Brief from 2018. A blockchain is a write-only database dispersed over a network of interconnected computers that uses cryptography, the computerized encoding and decoding of information, to create a tamper-proof public record of transactions. Blockchain technology is transparent, secure, and decentralized, meaning no central actor can alter the public record. In addition, financial transactions carried out on blockchains are cheaper and faster than those performed by traditional financial institutions. These properties are at the heart of this technology's rapid expansion. Bitcoin was the first blockchain. It was implemented in 2009 to create the cryptocurrency Bitcoin as an alternative to fiat money currency. Paper money or coins of little or no intrinsic value, but made legal by a government. It has a market capitalization of 15 billion Canadian as of November 2016. A number of second-generation blockchains have been created in recent years, with Ethereum being the best-known example. Transactions on the Ethereum blockchain include financial transactions, but can also include general-purpose database records and programs known as smart contracts that can be executed directly on the blockchain. Smart contracts interpret legal or business contracts into computer programming, bringing blockchain properties to commercial transactions. In addition, cryptographically signed decentralized applications, or dApps, can duplicate the functionality of commercially available apps, but in a decentralized and low-cost environment. dApps are applications that execute smart contracts. Examples include ride-sharing, crowdfunding, notary services to publicly store ownership data, decentralized electric power sales, task management, decentralized messaging services like Twitter, identification and record keeping, and other governmental services. Policy considerations. Blockchain technology presents a safe, transparent, rapid, and affordable digital solution to many government challenges. It could facilitate payments, benefits, distribution, identification, record keeping, and certification, to name a few. On the negative side, there is a concern that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin could also be used to facilitate anonymity in criminal transactions and pose legal and security challenges. However, a 2015 UK government report found that because all Bitcoin's transactions are public, Bitcoin had the lowest risk of being used for money laundering. Blockchain innovations like the Ethereum-based DAO present an opportunity for facilitated funding of startup enterprises. This may be of interest to a country like Canada, where small and medium-sized enterprises play an important role in the economy. Similarly, the service sector plays an important role in the Canadian economy, and blockchain holds the promise of reducing friction in digital commerce and services by reducing financial transaction costs. These costs are a disproportionate burden on small enterprises with large numbers of small transactions. Blockchain technology has repeatedly broken crowdfunding records due to the amount of interest by investors. The global banking community, as well as technology and communications industry leaders, are funding projects to learn how to make use of this innovation. Fundamentally, this technology is decentralized and can be perceived as a threat to large institutions, potentially including governments. Bitcoin is a currency backed by no nation and controlled neither by banks nor central actors. Unlike the internet, which is run on servers on soil controlled by nation states and owned by companies, decentralized software may present entirely new legal challenges in terms of liabilities, rights, and jurisdictions. While the technology is only 7 years old, the inherent nature of open source software allows for blockchain innovations to be rapidly and widely distributed. Waiting to see if initiatives will pan out, instead of preparing for when such ambitions will become widely successful, may prove to be a risky approach. And then we have the advantages of blockchain, and then we have the limitations of blockchain. Well, let's look at the advantages. Blockchain technology has the potential to reduce the cost of banking services by providing a near zero cost alternative. One example is international money transfers. While many currency exchanges will charge a fee, perhaps 2 to 3% on the amount exchanged, Bitcoin transaction fees are about 5 to 10 US cents, regardless of the amount exchanged. Another advantage is speed. Instead of financial trades settled by banks in 1 to 3 days, blockchains are capable of clearing transactions in fewer than 15 seconds. The decentralized and transparent public record keeping provided by blockchains can create the trust needed to engage in a transaction with an unknown individual without the need of a jointly trusted third party, like a bank or a lawyer. In doing so, blockchain technologies may become a key element in the rise of rapid and inexpensive peer-to-peer transactions for the exchange or sale of goods and services, thus potentially expanding choice and supply in the marketplace. The use of private blockchains is being explored by a number of sectors to lower the cost and increase the speed and security of their operations. Overall, blockchain technology may raise consumer purchasing power by reducing transactional costs throughout the value chain. And I still have a hard time understanding blockchain digital currency. I'm doing my best. Limitations. One consequence of having universal decentralized records is that any errors or software faults must occur in the open and will be rapidly discovered by the global community. This has led to a well-publicized thefts such as the failure of the Mt. Gox Bitcoin exchange and the Bitfinex Bitcoin hack. While blockchain public ledgers are cryptographically protected and are not vulnerable to most forms of tampering, accompanying services may be just as vulnerable to attack and theft as other digital technologies. Recent discoveries of flaws in the code of one of Ethereum's most ambitious spin-offs, the DAO Digital Autonomous Organization, has demonstrated that while blockchain technology promises to be transformational, it is still early in its development. Companies, sites, and venues currently accepting Bitcoin are few and far between despite rapid expansion, leaving the currency a poor substitute for national currencies and banking services. A general lack of understanding of the technology, and a shortage of skilled and knowledgeable talent is perhaps the largest barrier to the wider deployment of blockchain technology. From 2018. And then we had one more paper from 2019. I had it there a few minutes ago and I lost it. Let me just try and see if I can find it again. I did have it. And if not, we'll have to go to another paper. Blockchain strategy. Okay, I'm going to play some. I'll continue with this while I hunt up.
UK, Directed Energy Weapons International and Communications Advisor for the Ministry of Defense. Reference number has a salary. London locations may attract an allowance. A civil service pension. Job grade Senior Executive Officer C1. Okay. Job summary. This is a job description. Okay. And you want to apply before 11:55 p.m. on Wednesday, the 3rd of September, 2025. The Directed Energy Weapons Program team is at the forefront of the Ministry of Defense's efforts to develop novel technology into new capabilities, helping to protect our armed forces from the complex and growing threats that face the UK and the world. You will be the lead for international partnerships and communications for the Directed Energy Weapons Program. Oh, okay. International relationships and communication, international strategy. Yeah. Oh my gosh, they have directed energy weapons for 70 years, folks. But we thought we'd throw you a job description over there in the UK. They got a lot of interesting things going on right now. So, Wyoming launches state-issued stablecoins. CBS News. Looks like this was August 20th.
One of the candidates on President... One of the candidates on President Trump's shortlist to be the next Fed Reserve Chair took to the podium in Wyoming today. That state has just become the first to launch a state-issued stablecoin. That's a type of crypto designed to offer instant transactions and reduce fees for customers and businesses. The launch comes shortly after President Trump signed the very first federal bill to regulate so-called stablecoins. Here's Fed Reserve Governor Christopher Waller on that today. Listen.
Stablecoins, like card payments, are private sector-driven innovation. And like card payments, we see connections to the traditional payments, clearing, and settlement ecosystem. For example, many stablecoin arrangements use legacy payment services to fund and redeem stablecoin balances. In addition to stablecoins, the use of AI in payments is an area where we are seeing significant private sector-led innovation. Here, AI is not serving as payments infrastructure, but as an enabling technology that could bring considerable benefits to both private and public sector operated payment services.
In short, and I don't need to tell you this, it's a whole new world. So let's talk about that new world, bringing in crypto reporter for Axios and author of the Axios crypto newsletter, Brady Dale. Brady, good to have you with us on CBS.
Okay, chat. Thank you, Dokodo, for answering Carrie B. But it's a question that is natural. So if they're using photonics, why are they pushing fiber optics? Redundancy networks are required. Why? Visa and MasterCard, they like to know that when they're doing things like what we're watching here on CBS News with the stablecoin and all the other transactions with NFT and the NEMs and the MEMs, etc., you know, the biosensors, the biomedical engineers, all those people are in jobs that are protected by HIPAA, financial things, and that requires redundancy. You have to have at least 3 to 5 networks at any given time, not just one, so that if the photonic network goes on the fritz, well then the fiber optic network picks it up, or the satellite network, or the fronthaul backhaul with the cell phone tower, or another body area network, or the smart grid, etc., etc. So the big pipes and the fiber optics have been using dark fiber for 25 years with the National Science Foundation, and any time that they do this, because of insurance companies, quality of service guarantees, they have to have many networks. Why? Because this is the GDP. This is the economy. Welcome to the biological tokenized economy. It's called a bio-tokenized economy because the energy is being measured out of your photonic cell structure. And how much energy you can put in with your feature values is how much universal basic income and access you will be given. Exactly, precisely, like the Black Mirror episode with that woman trying to get to a wedding. Yep.
News 24/7. I've got a lot to learn here. Your take on what we just heard and how this will affect the everyday consumer who's still trying to pay with greenbacks in their wallet.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a real vote of confidence for this new technology. You know, the truth is, for Americans, stable coins are probably not immediately something that they really need, though it could make a big difference for people who want to spend money online. That could get a lot easier with stable coins. But around the world, people love stable coins because it gives them access to the dollar, and not everyone has as good a banking rails, you know, in other places as we do, and that's been part of the reason why stable coins have become so popular globally.
Well, and whoever named them wanted us all to see stability in the stable coins, but I don't even really have a great grasp on what they are. Can you just kind of back up and tell us what a stable coin is?
Sure. So the first thing everyone hears about Bitcoin, right, is that it's this highly volatile asset. You just never know what it's going to be worth from one day to another, one hour to another. So back in the day when people were trading Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, they needed a way to know what their positions were. They needed one cryptocurrency that wouldn't change in value all the time. And so that's what stablecoins are. They're tokens that you can trade in for a real dollar at any time. They're always worth $1. They're just like $1 in your wallet. But that's the really important thing that stablecoins do, though, is they allow people to move money differently. So if you wanted to move money from one crypto exchange to another, back in the day, you'd have to go through a bank. The bank might have a lot of difficult questions for you. Why are you trading these weird Bitcoins? We don't like that. It makes us nervous. Stablecoins can just route right around them. It can go from one exchange to another. It can go from one person to another. You just don't need as many people in the middle, which that raises red flags for some people. But if you're just moving a lot of money, it is a lot less friction and a lot faster.
Because we're all billionaires, didn't you know?
Welcome back to the exchange. Sure.
And CNBC as well, isn't that great? They're very excited, folks. I saw some of your commentary in the chat. Yeah, they were busy screaming, Web3, we're free, we're cyberpunks and cypherpunks. We're all free and decentralized. No. You got everybody enmeshed, and because you got so many people who are totally clueless to the fact that you're using their own anatomy, they're just all the time convinced that they love us. Yeah. So here's another one, a 5G mass experiment from Investigate Europe 6 years ago.
There's a revolution on the way. It's the 5G revolution. Although some say this will be more like an experiment that will affect billions of people. 5G stands for 5th generation mobile services. The internet will be faster than ever. Downloading a high-definition movie will take mere seconds. By 2025, the European Commission is planning for all urban areas across the continent to have seamless 5G coverage. This will enable a new age in the Internet of Things. Smart driverless cars and smart hospitals, smart fridges, coffee makers, and even baby diapers. But what citizens are not told is that for this to happen, countless new antennas will be added. In our neighborhoods, our workplaces, even in our homes. Are mobile communications dangerous? The scientific community is divided. Some experts maintain they are safe, others have serious concerns. In 2011, the WHO classified electromagnetic fields associated with cell phones as possibly carcinogenic to humans. And studies published in 2018 showed that when rats were exposed to such fields, it increased their risk of certain types of cancer.
So then you have to wonder, since 2011 they know all this, well, what they're going to do is what they always do. Well, now that we've got all these redundancy networks and your body is the network, you ain't going to need a smartphone anymore. Yeah, they planned for that in 2017. They have a whole layout of human augmentation so that they're using their quantum photonic systems, with big magnets under your feet, high altitude platforms and your air molecules on crack, using your body with human body communication to route the data, hold the data, transfer the data. Your fat tissue routes data faster, your muscle tissue holds data better, and the air can store memory. Then they can tell you, see, we're not worried about the 5G because we got rid of the evil smartphones. Now the agentic AI just talks to you in your head. And nobody was told anything real while they all, we're protesting the 5G. Business was going by completely unbothered. And that's why there's so many of us here in the community that are educating as fast as we can, because this upgrade that they've already accomplished, because we've given them 5 years to have everybody walking around with all these injected bodies with different types of nano networks and load balancing testing. And everyone in the doctor community screamed viruses. Nobody brought up the M-band. Nobody brought up the nano networks that have been there, worked on since 2014 professionally, except us, non-vaxxer, and a handful of folks. You see how it works? And what they, as far as in business, their job is to meet the bottom line. And when you follow the money in the bio-tokenized economy, ethicists are always told, shut up, we'll deal with you when business is done. We've shown that in numerous documents, not just the 2030 goals. Oh no, all of them. Because these are businesses that are holding up the economic gross domestic product and healthcare and automation and logistics, and that's what makes an economy run. So if you're not focused on what is making the money, which would be information communication technology, you're going to end up in the weeds with the UFO circle. They plan on that. They use terminology and acronyms and try to make it sound nebulous and magical. And then when you end up in the UFO circle or conspiracy blogs trying to figure out what in the world is going on, they want to keep you with them for whatever they're talking about, their clickbait. You know, it's what makes them money. I'm serious. They write books, they come back and do different podcasts. But the problem is, this is not conspiracy theory. This is the GDP, globally. Okay, gross domestic product globally. And as you see, this is a 6-year-old video that said, oh yeah, the European Commission, we're going to have 5G everywhere. Yeah, they're already standardizing 6G so that by the time we hit 2030, you're not on 5G anymore. You're fully on the 6G. And that deployment has been going on since 2019 here in the States as well, firmly, meaning you're not turning it off, you're not turning it back. So what are they using in the 6G? Digital twins. How are they doing that? Photonics, along with the Internet of Behaviors, the Internet of Thoughts, the Internet of Animals, and full control down to the nanoscale level on every molecule planet-wide. And the reason that people struggled is because, of course, like in the chat, how can they do this to the whole world? Because they've had 70 years to do it nice and quiet. They removed the human anatomy. Nobody was talking about that type of connectivity or any of the sciences that go with it, like I explained in Buma's stream last night with oscillation, frequency, cymatics, etc. So when you do that, when you remove sciences from the common vernacular, who the hell is going to know about them? These sciences disappeared into private universities, worked on all the way through World War II and the Cold War, and then tested in the Vietnam era, and then fully deployed. But who knows that? The people that fought the Gulf War, they never talk about using voice to skull on the enemy. The Gulf War was in the 90s. Voice to skull, using it on the enemy. No one talks about the drone warfare and how it targets people. Welcome to photonics. So the sense they've had it for 70 years, you think you are going to take it away from them? They don't even have this all tied down in the government. Because see, then people could rise up and go, oh, we're gonna have a vote and we're gonna change legislation. No, this stuff is all deployed in companies to make it even if you do go after the government, then you got regulation, you're going to be waiting, and while you're waiting, they're going to work. And that's where the problem has been for 30 and 50 and 70 years. So that's why they're able to get away with it, because people have to go where the money is. Well, the money is in logging into other bodies, playing with their genetics, and doing it for the benefit of saving money on healthcare. You'll never be diseased again. Everybody's going to live forever. Now, why in the hell people believe that, I cannot understand. Because basic averages, mean, median, and mode, if everybody's going to be a billionaire, and everybody's going to live forever, and everybody's going to have access to everything, well, then we would be overpopulated within a few decades. And when you ask these people that are in these industries to show anything good in the past 30 years that they've done commercially, because they've had a commercial for 30 years, they have nothing to show except disease, war, and what they're doing right now. Well, Epstein and all that. Yeah, where did you get the research and development for all of your AI and all of these same Peter Thiel, Vance, and all these same politicians and businessmen that are involved now? Human augmentation, that's life extension technology. Oh, you're going to give that to everybody. So what happened to the people that were injected with these nano networking biocyber interface COVID shots? Well, we're not going to talk about the COVID W band. We don't need to talk about W bands at all. We have digital twins with Siemens Health and Ears. Just come in, put your wearable on, and you'll be able to see yourselves in real time, and we love you. I'm serious. You have to think about it as well from the different generations' perspectives. The youth are told, guess what? We have a wearable device, it's no different than your Fitbit, see? You just put it on like a smartwatch, and you can track individual cells in your bloodstream in real time. The AI is never wrong, computers are never wrong. So now you're going to know what's happening in your body, it'll tell you when you're going to die, it tells you everything. You don't need to learn anything about your health. You don't need to know how your body works. The wearable will do it for you. And it's the same way with judgments that are being made in regards to your value. Your value is in the cleanness of your blood and the amount of energy that you put into your community via your own bloodstream in the bio-tokenized economy. That's it. And the photonic quantum systems they've got underground that they've been using since the 90s, They've worked all that out. They know exactly what they're doing and how they are slowly but surely, they're like, Sabrina, this is going fast. Yeah, but when it comes to the systematic controlled downturn of Europe, the United States, and basically the Northern Hemisphere, that's going to be, in my opinion, in pockets. Okay? So, full circle. The reason that anybody involved with complaining about 5G gets nowhere is because they're already in the 6G, and this is the new bio-tokenized economy, like we just watched on CBS with the stablecoin. You're not taking away pacemakers or people's wireless earbuds. So the only control you have is over your own body to your best ability. That's it. Because everybody wants to upload to World of Warcraft, upload to the cloud, augmented reality. They are not going to make these billionaires accountable. And even if they pretend to, people will be in the smart city, or you won't be able to survive outside of it due to the augmentation of the ionosphere. That's why I was grateful for the person who did that write-up about HARP. It's well done. That's exactly how it works. And nobody's going to turn that off either, because they've been working that since the 70s too.
Even among those who believe the technology is safe, many admit that more studies are needed. And for 5G, there are almost no studies. Telecom companies themselves have noted that electromagnetic signals may pose health risks. So why are the EU Commission and our governments turning a blind eye? They cite guidelines established by transnational scientific bodies. But Investigate Europe has found that these bodies are closed clubs. People with dissenting opinions are not invited in, and a significant number of the scientists involved have received funding from companies with vested interests in the 5G rollout. There is no risk-free society. Other things we consume are also bad for our health, from alcohol to junk food. But if you don't want a hamburger, you can simply avoid hamburgers. With 5G, there is no opt-out.
With 5G, there is no opt-out. Yeah. And they're using your body in the 6G, so it's really no opt-out. And when I tell you that this is human-to-human betrayal, and everybody gets mad at me, I'm sorry. They knew better, and they know better. They don't care. That's really hard for people. Most people, they say, well, if you knew something was carcinogenic, what are you doing? Making money. Hooking people's asses to the cloud so they can be modified with nanotechnology. Wow, that's incredible. So, we're going to be going into this later on, the International Journal of Intelligence and Counterintelligence, because I think that the learning curve when it comes to the interference that a lot of people have experienced online, we need to have a clearer understanding of how dense this counterintelligence space really is, rather than just screaming that everybody's COINTEL and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, I'm going to continue on with this one in a little bit. I just wanted to show you I showed you a policy paper from another one from 2019. And this is put out by February 2019, A Digital Strategy for Canada, The Current Challenge. And the IRPP is the, what is the IRPP? But they also put out a policy paper in 2019, the year before they put out, before Policy Horizons Canada put out Exploring the Biodigital Convergence in 2020. It's the IRPP. Anyway, I'll leave the link to that below. And then there's another strategy, Canada's strategy for blockchain and digital assets. That's this one here. It came out in 2024, and that's the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. From Chaos to Clarity, Canada's Blueprint for a Trusted and Competitive Digital Future. Again, this is from last year. And it's a white paper. And I believe if we scroll a little bit further down, they will give us a list of terms. And here are the members, our members, Diamond members, Osler, Bitfarms, Bitdeer, Balance, Virgo, Platinum members, NDAX, Iron, 12.6 Services, ATB, EOS Network, Elliptic, Renault and Company, Hut 8, Coinbase. And we have our gold members, Mara, Broadridge, WonderFi, 3IQ, Digital Shovel, Secure, Core Scientific, Renault and Company, KPMG, BitBuy, Block Lab, Hestia, BitGo, ShakePay, Miller Thompson, Blockchain Insurance, Gowling, WLG, and then we have our silver members, Accenture, Delwatt, Luxor, Penrose, Tetra, Patino, Collisionless, and then we have our bronze members, Apelo, Build Your Blocks, Systemic Trust, Crypto Tax, ITS, NAIT, that would be Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, Open Medicine Foundation, York School of Continuing Studies, Metrics, Jones, De Laurier, Navicord, Big Digital, Hive, MWC Megawatt Canada, Stablecorp, New West Data, ASIC Exchange, Area, Heatcore, What's Miner, Cassels, and Aquino. The Canadian Blockchain Consortium is dedicated to enhancing the national blockchain community and strengthening Canada's leadership position on the global stage. We support the industry through our diverse committees, including regulatory, infrastructure, access to banking, policy and advocacy, Web3, sustainability, cybersecurity, public affairs, digital asset taxation, and roundtable committees. Additionally, we engage in events nationwide, advocacy efforts, regulatory interactions, ecosystem development, and trade missions that enhance investment opportunities in Canadian markets. Canada is home to a dynamic blockchain ecosystem comprising over 350 companies across mining, DeFi, trading platforms, and infrastructure development, supported by renewable energy resources, a highly skilled workforce, and early leadership in financial innovation, such as the launch of the world's first Bitcoin ETF. Canada is well positioned for growth. However, compared to faster moving jurisdictions like Singapore, the EU, and parts of the US, Canada faces the risk of losing talent and investment without decisive regulatory modernization and national coordination. Why Canada must act: economic opportunity, global competitiveness, public sentiment and trust, and regulatory necessity. Policy recommendations: establish a federal digital assets policy task force, launch a national blockchain regulatory sandbox, develop a federal and provincial blockchain literacy and consumer protection campaign, issue a public statement, establish public-private partnerships, expand OECD-aligned tax reporting for digital assets, regulating stablecoins appropriately under the Retail Payment Activities Act, defining and classifying digital assets and blockchain technologies to provide clarity. Modernize the consumer-driven banking framework to include crypto custody, introduce tax incentives and fair tax treatment for energy-efficient digital asset mining, and issue clear banking engagement guidelines focused on regulatory compliance expectations without overriding banks' risk-based approaches. Modernize public investment mandates, BDC, EDC, Investissement Quebec to allow investment in compliant Canadian digital asset companies, especially those building infrastructure such as custody, supply chain systems, and decentralized AI. Unlocking these capital channels will catalyze co-investment, de-risk early innovations, and help retain high-potential firms in Canada. Each recommendation is grounded in practical, achievable steps to build a responsible, innovation-friendly digital economy. Early wins and strategic alignment roadmap. Beginning in mid-2025, the roadmap outlines high-impact early actions, including establishing the policy task force, launching a national sandbox, publishing compliance guidance, and starting consultations on stablecoins and tax reporting. Then we have implementation and governments, international alignment, crypto asset reporting framework, EU's markets in crypto assets, FATF standards, Basel Committee on IOSCO guidance for prudential and systemic risk oversight. Strategic benchmarking will ensure Canadian firms can compete globally under interoperable, recognized frameworks without sacrificing innovation. Canada stands at a pivotal moment. Digital assets are no longer fringe innovations. They are becoming a central pillar of the global economy. By embracing smart regulation, responsible innovation, and global cooperation, Canada can build a resilient, competitive digital asset ecosystem that drives prosperity, protects consumers, and strengthens national economic leadership for the next decade. And here we get to our glossary of terms, industry overview, and economic imperatives. Digital asset, a digital representation of value or rights that is issued, transferred, or stored using blockchain or similar technology. Includes cryptocurrencies, stablecoins, tokenized assets, and digital securities. Blockchain, a decentralized distributed ledger technology that securely records transactions in a transparent, tamper-resistant, and chronological order, forms the infrastructure for most digital assets. Cryptocurrency is a form of decentralized digital currency example Bitcoin, Ethereum, that uses cryptography and blockchain to enable peer-to-peer transactions without a central authority. Tokenized asset, a blockchain-based digital representation of a real-world asset, example real estate, commodities, or equities, enabling programmable ownership, transferability, and fractionalization. Non-fungible token, NFT, a unique, indivisible digital token that represents ownership of a specific item. Often art, collectibles, or certificates on a blockchain, each NFT has distinct metadata. Utility token, a type of digital token that grants access to a specific application, platform, or service within a blockchain ecosystem, but does not typically function as a currency or investment. Decentralized finance, which is DeFi, a blockchain-based financial system that replicates traditional financial services, example lending and trading, without intermediaries, using open protocols and smart contracts. And a smart contract is a self-executing code stored on a blockchain that automatically enforces the terms of an agreement when predetermined conditions are met. International comparisons and case studies. Token mapping, a regulatory classification process that categorizes digital assets based on their function and risk characteristics, example, utility, security, and payment. Used to tailor regulatory treatment. Retail Payment Activities Act, federal legislation designed to regulate modern non-bank payment service providers, proposed as a legal framework for stablecoins when used as payment instruments. Virtual Asset Service Provider, a business that offers services for the exchange, safekeeping, transfer, or issuance of digital assets, defined by FATF as requiring AML/CTF compliance. Travel Rule, a global FATF requirement mandating that VASPs collect and transmit sender and receiver identity information for digital asset transfers above a certain threshold, similar to wire transfer standards. Regulatory necessity and oversight gaps. Financial instrument classification, the process of determining whether a digital asset is a payment instrument. Federal oversight. A security/investment product, which is provincial oversight, or a different asset, class critical to regulatory clarity. Crypto custody, the secure management and safekeeping of clients' digital assets, often by regulated financial institutions, involves safeguarding private keys, ensuring recoverability, and preventing loss or theft. And then we have digital wallet, a software application or physical device that stores cryptographic keys, allowing users to access, send, and receive digital assets. Can be custodial or non-custodial. And digital identity, a digital representation of an individual's verified identity used for secure authentication. In blockchain context, enables tamper-proof identity verification for services like voting, health records, or financial access. And then we have an overview of digital assets industry in Canada. Canada is home to a dynamic and expanding blockchain industry comprising approximately 300 companies operating in the space as of 2025. These firms operate across the blockchain value chain, including digital asset mining, trading platforms, decentralized finance, DeFi, blockchain-based enterprise solutions, and infrastructure development. This national ecosystem positions Canada as a mid-sized but rapidly evolving global player in blockchain innovation and adoption. And just scrolling down, I think I'll just scroll right through here, and I want to get to one last paper, another recent paper. Why Canada should support and regulate the digital assets industry. Projections estimating revenues to reach approximately USD 81.6 billion by 2030, reflecting a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of 88.2% from 2023 to 2030. The sector also supported nearly 5% of the Canadian workforce, and it continues to demonstrate strong growth potential as digital assets become more integrated into mainstream economic activity. Notably, the digital economy offers access to high-value employment. The median annual wage in Canada's digital economy is estimated at 88,233 Canadian, which is approximately 48% higher than the national median wage. Canada holds distinct advantages in the global blockchain economy, particularly in green digital assets mining, abundant access to renewable energy, especially hydroelectric power in provinces such as Quebec, allows Canadian mining operations to promote sustainability as a core feature of their business models. This advantage is leveraged by firms like Bitfarms and Hut8, which market themselves globally as environmentally conscious digital asset miners. Canada has also been a leader in decentralized finance, DeFi, and digital identity technologies. These areas of blockchain applications are expected to become foundational to global fintech infrastructure. So fintech is an acronym for, or the short form for, financial technologies. Fintech, financial technologies, infrastructure. And Canadian institutions and firms are well positioned to develop and commercialize these solutions at scale. And we have tax revenue opportunities. Canada has played a foundational role in the global blockchain ecosystem, serving as the birthplace of Ethereum, approving the world's first Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, and fostering a vibrant community of developers and entrepreneurs. However, as other jurisdictions rapidly advance comprehensive digital asset strategies, Canada faces growing pressure to modernize its policy approach. And then we have a few case studies here. Case study number 1, the United States. The United States is currently undergoing a significant transformation in its approach to digital asset regulation. And they have crypto czar in the White House now, so they're all on bar. And Trump is pumping crypto really hard, and he's making a killing. Marked by a shift from fundamental enforcement to a more structured, innovation-friendly framework. In January 2025, President Trump issued Executive Order 14178, strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology, which outlines a federal policy supporting the responsible growth and use of digital assets and blockchain technology across all sectors of the economy. This policy emphasizes protecting access to open public blockchain networks, promoting the development of dollar-backed stablecoins, and providing regulatory clarity through technology-neutral frameworks with well-defined jurisdictional boundaries. And we have a UK case study. And then we have an Australian case study and a Singaporean case study. And a Bermuda case study. And a Hong Kong case study. We have an Estonia case study. We have the European Union MiCA framework. Public sentiment. A successful regulatory approach must align with public understanding and sentiment. Young Canadians are at the forefront of digital technology adoption, a trend that extends into the realm of digital assets. This demographic's age, 18 to 30, near universal internet usage and comfort with digital platforms position them as key participants in the evolving digital assets industry. In 2022, an impressive 99.2% of Canadians aged 15 to 24 reported using the internet, the highest rate among all age groups. The familiarity and comfort of younger Canadians with digital technologies translate into a heightened interest in cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies. While specific age disaggregated data on cryptocurrency ownership in Canada is limited, global trends suggest that younger demographics are more inclined to explore and invest in digital assets. For instance, a study highlighted that millennials are adopting cryptocurrencies due to their desire for financial independence and their comfort with digital technologies. And there's a graph showing Bitcoin awareness and ownership in Canada from 2016 to 2023. Financial autonomy. And that's how they sell it. their main selling point is that it's decentralized. Crypto is decentralized, when in fact it's not decentralized, because they just have more ways, more in close ways to have you hooked up, to have you tethered to the blockchain. It's not decentralized. Just more ways to get to you. In reality, that's what decentralized means. So I think I'm going to play a little bit more of Sabrina Wallace from Synergy, if I can get back to okay. So I'm going to continue here.
It would be better
And I'm
if
gonna
people could
scroll.
understand the actual reality of these cyber counterintelligence actors and implications for security. So somebody sent this over from academia, and it had a bunch of related papers. So I'm just showing you this for when we get there. And then this is the Dr. Rima Labo clip, and let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Okay.
Some articles about this and did some videos. The video is called A New Way of Dying, because there were people who were, as I call it, planking, dying in one piece, if you will. There was an Egyptian diplomat who was at an official event, speaking at the podium, and suddenly killed over backwards. There were
From COVID or COVID injection?
From what? Allegedly from COVID, but who knows? Undoubtedly from the COVID.
I mean, I think
injection.
I've seen
However,
it from the COVID. I've seen it from the COVID injection, not so much from COVID itself, where they just drop like that. But I guess there
don't
could
die
be some.
that from the, in fact, I don't think it was from the COVID injection at all. What I
Okay.
suspect is that the injection inserted biological control systems, sending and receiving systems, and that those systems were and are susceptible to electromagnetic control, so that these people were, in my hypothesis, probably simply experimental subjects. Somebody aimed a beam, pressed a button,
Yeah, okay, great.
and the entire striated muscle system of their body, including the heart, which is a striated muscle, immediately stopped operating. So they died bunk. Now, unfortunately, as a physician, I've seen a lot of people die, not under my direct care, but in hospitals, in my training, and so on. People die in a collapsing motion. They fold. They do not die stiffly. No natural death occurs as a plank. It simply does not occur. The only way and they clutch their chest if it's a heart attack, or and they call out mama or save me or don't let me die. Every one of these people, and unfortunately I watched hundreds of these videos from around the world, every one of these people died in a completely unnatural way, in which there was no speech, in which there was no blinking, in which there was no grasping or, essentially clutching the part of the body that was experiencing whatever it was. These people were paralyzed. And the only way to paralyze people so effectively, so that every striated muscle in the body stops at the same moment, it wasn't even a seizure. with jerking. We're talking about complete paralysis. The only
Yeah.
way I know to do that is electromagnetically. And
Okay, so they did it
therefore
with
given-
frequency.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe that that was part of the experimentation that we've been subjected to through the faux vaccine and through the terror instrumentation.
So you're not, just to clarify, you're
terrified.
not saying, just to clarify, you're not saying just from COVID when they did that, you're saying even from the shot, you think that was intentional for someone that died suddenly, people, to scare us
Absolutely.
more?
Absolutely.
Because they can
How
blame
many-
it on COVID.
Of course. People
Right,
are
okay.
dying from COVID, plunk, and therefore you have to protect yourself from COVID because you don't want to go plunk, and you have to get the shot, right?
Okay,
Oh,
so
really?
let's,
Well, there you go. Out of her own mouth, like I said. I mean, people who are serious in this discussion, they damn well know what electronic warfare is, how old it is, why it's there. Okay? They know about how easy it is. She even used the right terminology. They steer the beam, boom, good night, you ate too much butter. Which is why we're going to go back into this stuff with those clandestine clearances, Domex, and a bunch of other things. Just not today. Okay. So, hang on. Here is a quick clip that I really liked. I thought they did a good job. Explaining copper.
By wearing jewelry in certain places, we are enhancing the energy flow in the meridian in that area of the body. If we have wrist pain, we can wear copper around the wrist, which will enhance the frequency. Cells create organs, the organs create systems, and the system creates the body. Every cell, every organ, and every system has its own magnetic field, and this creates the overall magnetic field. That's why you have an anatomy. You are a giant atom. I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not saying I wear linen all the time, but maybe this is something that we should consider. Our consciousness, our energy is affected by these magnetic fields. By wearing jewelry in certain places.
Interesting book he's using, and that's why it says biofields, plural, in the biofield physiology. Now, this is today with Taylor Lorenz, Secret NYPD Surveillance Tactics Revealed.
Viewers might have been like kids, we weren't paying as much attention back then. When did the surveillance state really start to emerge?
It's come in these waves over the years. You know, you had earlier iterations during the Cold War, and then you saw this massive surge in electronic surveillance after 9/11, with billions flowing into the NSA and the other federal agencies to have all the things that Snowden would later detail. But you also saw this multi-billion-dollar investment in federal, state, and local intelligence sharing, with fusion centers being built out around the country, sharing data from local police departments.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You mean fusion centers have been around since 9/11? Wow. Well, isn't that interesting? We've tried many times here on the channel to explain this image from the targeted individual community. See right there where it says fusion centers. Yeah, where they can work with the rest of the intelligence community, clandestine clearances to protect people, and then local law enforcement gets told what to do by the DOJ, the FBI, and if it's not an investigation like that, then you have your DNI, DHS, FEMA, and all your CIA, etc., and they work with the local fusion centers. The targeted individual community kept calling it gang stalking. And they said, "But Sabrina, that's the mechanic they're using." And I said, I know it looks that way to you because you've been told that it's all about you and that you're the singular target. I'm sorry, that is not what they're normally doing. Their databases and watch lists usually come in with a lot of information, and they have loopholes everywhere. They can pay for the metadata legally. They can use different technology with the right security clearance. You're never going to know because it's a clandestine clearance. And then they come in and tell the fusion center at the local law enforcement level what to do. And my biggest frustration with this is that the police, they are next to the doctors, the police are the largest users of this very same system that is it Dr. Dr. Rima over there is talking about. Not just with their Stingray and their Dirtbox and their parole officers using radio frequency with the ankle bracelets. Dude, that's the 90s. Yeah. So what do you think they've been doing since 2001 with all these fusion centers? Because they love you, and they've been trying to protect us from grandma taking nail clippers on the plane. This is human to human betrayal. We don't need an alien invasion. We need common sense to invade the population. Okay? Because this is stupid. Legitimately stupid. To tell people the body's not electrical, the heart's not electrical, the aliens are en route, or Jesus is coming, instead of admitting 19 years of professional biosignal processing, instead of admitting all these fusion centers, the trillion sensor network for the central nervous system of the Earth, 1 trillion nanoscale sensors. This image here is from 2010. Okay? Then you have your FEMA stuff going on with the emergency alert system, your iPods. These systems are all connected to bodies. They're not waiting on you to pick up your phone. Nobody said a word, except the cops, the fusion centers, the DOJ, the CIA, the ODNI, the DHS, because of what we will be going into when we go into all that intelligence stuff, which is how these laser systems that are photonic, inside in the way that these codes right here use our geospatial. It's open source, okay? And the reason that I'm going there next is, and I wanted to make sure that we've got a clear understanding of the photonics so that when we talk about smart cities, smart health, smart home, this is all those inescapable networks using your blood, tissue, and bone to track you and watch you no matter what you do, what you think, what you say. Then at the neuronal level, recording every synaptic response in every neuron body-wide, not just in your head, for many, many data center years that you're just finding out about now. With 40 years of quantum key distribution in companies, they just didn't say anything while they've been busy building it, testing it, and deploying it. Microfluidic channels, 2015. Okay? So that's why I have continued to get my butt out here and be like, hey, you got to tell them what you're doing out there. Because, see, a lot of these employees that work for the government, continuity of government or whatever you want to call it, they are augmented. This is life extension technology. Welcome to 2011 at the University of Illinois, Chicago. That's why there's no time left to dither around and pretend the body is not electrical, that they're not using the skin or the interstitium or physionet, because 80% of your immune system is in that hidden anatomy. And when it comes to the way they measure with spectroscopy, Raman resurfacing, microscopy, this stuff is from the 1930s forward. CERN holds not only the databases for the biomedical, but a lot of the big connectivity. CERN has the most internet connectivity worldwide. They've been working on your hyperledger technology since the 90s as well. The blockchain would never belong to all these young nerds. It has always been in the hands of the same people with the ARPANET and the rest of it. And that's why the fusion centers are old.
To ICE, to the FBI and others. And you saw this surge in the for-profit surveillance capitalism industry with all of the data brokers realizing that they could make so much money, not just selling our data to advertisers, but selling it to the police. And
so these data brokers who scrape our data with the nerds can then just sell your data because you don't even know what's happening. Look how far back we are. We're in the zeros. And now all of a sudden that it's already been done, everybody wants to suddenly throw a fit. Well, that's what the government did with cigarettes. That's what the government did with opiates. That's what the government has done every time. They do it. Oh, I guess we did it. Now you got to live with it. Okay, this is a different situation because human augmentation means that we're not alone under our own skin, not just in our own home. Oh my God, how'd they do it? People lied so they could make money? But Sabrina, why would God let this go on? What'd I say last night? Human to human betrayal. It's called free will. Did you lie to make money? Did you lie bold-faced to your family to make money? Yeah, but I've made all this money. Yeah, and now people can't even behave normal. They don't know how their immune system works. And mental health using databases and AI is going to dictate your future. Period. Good job.
So that all has just rapidly accelerated over the last, I'd say decade and a half.
What are fusion centers? I feel like people hear that word a lot. Can you explain how they operate?
Yeah, so this is a Department of Homeland Security initiative where they give massive grants to local law enforcement agencies and condition that on having this intelligence sharing infrastructure where it's basically an office where you'll have officers from all these different agencies coming there, sharing information. Sometimes you can have real-time access. Sometimes you can have just a culture of collaboration. That sounds great in some offices, right? You want collegial atmosphere, but it's very different when, officers are just conspiring to circumvent civil rights protections. So we've seen cases like up in Vermont, out in California, in Colorado, where you would have officers essentially talking to their buddies from the Fusion Center and saying, hey, I work for ICE, I work for the federal government, I can't access this state database to do a facial recognition search. Could you do me a favor and run this through your system? At that point, it's essentially just creating this massive loophole to pass that information from one agency to another and circumvent what few protections we have.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
One thing that we also saw around the time that you're mentioning in the past decade is this backlash to big tech. I feel like after Trump's election in 2016, really in 2017, you had the media and the public sort of start to realize, hey, maybe these tech companies are not all so wonderful in connecting the world. And we started to hear a lot about the dangers of the tech companies to children specifically. And I feel like in light of that, we've seen this spate of child safety laws and child safety legislation. And I put it in air quotes because I don't think these laws actually address the problem. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, where do you think that emerged from, and what role do you think that backlash to big tech played in pushing forward some of this surveillance stuff?
Yeah, it's been really disheartening, right? Because I'm one of these people who gets really pissed off at the ways that a lot of these tech platforms are impacting mental health. I'm not a fan of Facebook. I'm not a fan of Instagram, or certainly not TikTok. They can be great platforms in some ways, but they can be really harmful in others. But the problem is that the way that the discourse on children and these platforms has evolved, it's not actually addressing any of the things that are problematic about these platforms. So take Utah. They've had a couple of bills that are targeting access to, websites by kids. They've had a lot of laws targeting pornography in particular. And a lot of these laws are turning on the idea that, well, the way we're going to protect kids is by fencing off elements of the internet and saying, this is adults only. And that sounds great in theory until you realize, oh, there's no way to actually know who online is an adult and who's a kid unless you erect this sort of Orwellian tracking system that goes even beyond the horror show we have today and really makes anonymous internet access a thing of the past.
I just saw Accountable Tech, another nonprofit organization, is shutting down. They're sending all the funds to Design It For Us, this Gen Z-led organization. I also put it in air quotes because I think they're astroturfed, but that's another story. But, basically, like these child safety orgs, right? They're like, hey, we need age verification to crack down, and this is how we crack down on big tech. Can you talk about that positioning of mainstreaming surveillance in the name of big tech?
Keep in mind, these sort of child ordinances, we got to come up with a better name for these sort of like ID laws, these digital checkpoints. They are really not antithetical to the business model of big tech, right? Because with a lot of these bills, big tech still gets to have children on a lot of these platforms, just with certain limitations. And also, none of the restrictions that these laws...
Okay, I'm gonna play a little bit more of that. And I just showed you the Canadian Blockchain Consortium paper from 2025 actually. I'm sorry. It's from this year, and I'll leave the link to that below. And so why don't we take a trip to okay, this paper here, a roadmap for Canada's digital economy to 2030, and this is from the the ICTC, the CTIC, which is the, let me get that, that's our from the Information and Communications Technology Council, ICTC. And so that would be that information and communications technology, and that's where the big money is at. So next, I guess part 3 we'll go through this policy brief from October 7th, 2025. Okay, so it's brand new, and so the ITCT, the Information and Communications Technology Council, and that would link up with the ITU, which is the International Telecommunications Union, which started was founded in 1865, and it deals with everything communications and information technology and communications technology, and the ITU is a United Nations organization, and like I say, handles everything information and communications technology, where all the big money is. But first I'd like to go, let's take a trip to Switzerland. And we can scroll down through the corporate members and SE members, corporate, enterprise, and SEM members. And I'm just going to scroll down to see some of the companies out of Switzerland. And Switzerland is home of home to the United Nations and all their different agencies, including the International Telecommunications Union, the World Health Organization, UNESCO, UNICEF, and many, many, many others. NATO, CRISPR, I believe they're out of Zug, and CERN, it's Switzerland's home to the Red Cross, the Knights Templars, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, Credit Suisse Bank, and Crypto Valley. And here we are at Crypto Valley, and we're just scrolling down through this crypto corporations. And then we have our corporate startup members. Let's scroll down here. 21 Analytics, Energy, Advanced Blockchain AG, Action Ariat AG, Albus Protocol, Alchemy Pay, LF0 Foundation, All Nodes, Amity Capital, Aragon Association, ARF, Ariane Business Analytics AG, Art Fungible, Artenica Pty Limited, Astorvia, Avance GmbH, Axieria, Baynox AG, Bastion Digital AG, Bizo, Bison Digital, Bitsy AG, Bitkern Group AG, Biddy SA, BlockDAG, Block Estate DAO LLC, Block Radar, Bubaruza Bank, Cam Schweitz AG, Chain Risk, Chorus One AG, Chronicle, Codex Execution, Cofinex, Cookie Labs. From Crypto Valley, Switzerland, Crossover Cryptics, Crypto Solutions Sarl, Crypto United Partners AG, Crypto 4 Winners, Crypto Chill, Crypto Bung, DA Assured, Demoon Technology Holdings, Degenhaus Labs, Digital Trading Group of Central America, EnterHash, Ophelia Capital, Evern Dream Soft SA, Forest Digital, FRNZX, FS Partners AG, the CFO company, Fusion LLC, Fiat 201, Ficus, Fija Finance, Philotimo, Finch Trade AG, 5T FinTech, Foundation for the New Creative Economies, Goat Finance, GP Consulting and Transport, Gaiman IO, Genius Yield Association, Haruko, Hercules Partner, Holoxica. We're already down to G. Holmesy Legal, House of Test, IFC, Impact Scope, Innovad Integrated Capital AG, JMC Software AG, JB AG Regulatory Consulting, CryptNext AG, Lax Capital Zug ZMBH. Zug is a city in Switzerland. I think it's close to Zurich. Lemon Rocks. Lezi Legal, Linked Car, Leovest AG, Lunar Capital, Magnificent Fire AG, Margarita Finance, Market Synergy, Medicine San Frontier Suisse, Millionero, Mount Pelerin, Network Academy, Next Core Limited, Smart MUV, Nomad Fulcrum, Nomini, Notabene ID, Odos, Orbi, P8 Swiss, Prime GRC Advisory, Perspective, Point Legal, Quantum Leap Strategy AG, Recovery, RHO Labs, Robot Bulls, Script, Seymour Institute Inc., Sharkey, Swiss AG, Smart Compliance GmbH, Storm Partners, Safe in Crypto GmbH, Scale Compliance, Cyfork Sarl. These are all startups out of Switzerland. Score Chain, Sachi AG, CM Technology College, Single Broker, Skew.fi, Solana Foundation, Solidas Labs, Stephanie Fuchs Consulting, Swaff, Swappin.com, Swiss Crypto Tax GmbH, Swiss Nexus, Swiss Tech Capital AG, Swiss Zeit, Switzerland for United Nations Refugee Agency, Synapse Sciences, Tanzel Attorneys at Law, TMG Global Area World AG, The Big Whale, The One Gate Capital AG, Trico Labs Unblock, UNZN, United Net Zero Nation, UDAO, University of Geneva, Vaulted, VR All Art AG, Verify VASP, Vioma Partner AG, We Send It Media AG, Web3M, Zeltner and Company, Zera AG, and D-Risk Partners. And I'm just going to go to and here's an article from July 2nd by Osler Magazine. Canada's banks are about to get hit by $1 trillion stablecoin tsunami. The logic. With an aim to advance the use of real-time payments in open banking, the commerce platform Shopify has recently introduced an option for consumers to make payments using stablecoins, a popular crypto token. Pegged to the value of the US dollar, one of the appeals of using stablecoin is that payment transactions are settled on the spot on Coinbase's base blockchain without fees or a waiting period that traditional methods often necessitate. The Genius Act, passed in the U.S. Senate, establishes a legal framework for stablecoins at the federal level. This paves the way for banks and firms to issue their own stablecoins, and is ultimately driving innovation in fintech. That's financial technologies. By contrast, the regulatory framework in Canada around the use of stablecoins as a mechanism for mainstream payment falls into a legal gray area. It is uncertain whether uses for stablecoins outside crypto trading platforms, such as payments and settlement, are permitted in Canada. Osler's Matthew Burgoyne, chair of the Digital Assets and Blockchain Practice, tells the logic that it's been extremely frustrating as a legal advisor since he's unable to provide a clear answer when clients ask him what is and isn't allowed. While the Department of Finance is in the process of developing federal legislation to govern stablecoins, these guardrails are still forthcoming. Experts believe that under the current conditions, Canada is at risk of being unprepared and is likely to miss opportunities in this rapidly evolving area. Okay. So I'm just going to continue on here a little bit.
Laws implemented in the name of protecting kids are actually uniquely beneficial to kids. So let's take, for example, New York's law. This is called the Safe for Kids Act, where they said, we're going to make it so you have to opt into algorithmic optimization of your content. If you're a child, you're going to have these limits on some of the worst dark patterns that we've seen. Great. I would love the ability to opt into a non-algorithmic version of a lot of these platforms. I actually unfollowed every person I am friends with on Facebook just to retroactively create a non-algorithmic version of the platform. And yet they create this idea that if we just limit this to kids, we have a way to make this platform safe for adults. Again, without any evidence that this is a remedy that's only useful for kids. But the really scary thing is then to implement that, you then have to have all of these creepy technologies like facial recognition, facial age estimation, ID requirements in order to access those sites, which then create a huge civil rights concern where people aren't going to be able to access Facebook to stay in touch with loved ones and all the things that these companies sold us as the vision of the future without having a massive paper trail that could lead law enforcement straight to your door, that could, lead to a lot of the problematic uses of our digital identities that we see.
So this is why when you hand over agency for your body and your life to machines and random people that you'll never see, you have no way whatsoever in any lawfare arena to hold them accountable. And they're the ones making the decisions. And people like this do interviews and try to explain it, but they're busy making money and going to work. So what ends up happening is what we're living through now, which is nobody wants to do anything different. They all want to upload to the cloud, etc. Okay, hang on. So I thought this was interesting. This gentleman went back. Now I gotta find the clip. Hang on. And he was bringing some memory back to all the dancing TikTok people. And kind of showing potentially why are they doing this? Because they're scaring the crap out of everybody, but at the same time that they were scaring the crap out of everybody, all the nurses and doctors were out there dancing, fire department. People don't remember this stuff. Like when you try to talk about COVID, I've seen this discussion and heard it on the X in a few places too, that people just have no memory of what happened 5 years ago. And that's normal with trauma. You just want to forget it and move on. Okay, well, we have a bigger problem because nobody ever admitted what it even was, and we have a ton of damage to our civilization in regard to institutions and all these health problems. And the solutions that are being given to us are, we've already done it, so, fall in line and deal with it. Well, that's what everybody did 5 years ago. Grandma's gonna die, do what you're told. And we haven't recovered from any of that because, like I said, nobody's been direct or honest about what's going on, and we're being traumatized every day with all the war and oh my gosh, everybody's so dumb, it's Reptar, and nobody knows what's going on. So in reality, I would like to offer you out there in our community a perspective. Consider the telehealth revolution that they all knew was coming. They were very excited about it because of 2017-2012 Medical Body Area Network, and they knew when they tabletopped it, nobody was going to say no. It was going to go off without a hitch. Nobody believed in anything like this ever happening, so off they went. Consider, this is conjecture, that all these doctors and nurses who were already using Health Level 7 Humetrics when the COVID went off with Project Salus, that they knew they'd be able to work from home probably forever because the telehealth revolution is here to stay. Would you be dancing in the aisles knowing that not only was there no real threat due to bioelectronic medicine, for you anyways, but for all the other poor SOBs, they would learn real quick how much power over their body you really have. People that fought to get their loved ones out, people that had no vents, they were just taken care of by the AI database. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, they would never. We really don't know. But one thing we do know is how many of them were dancing around. So I just would like to remind everybody of that.
Gavin Newsom is Satan. I look at him, my discernment, the Holy Spirit goes, Satan, red alert. Another here, alert, alert, danger, danger.
Hopefully late night crew is all right. Hopefully y'all are doing okay. But you know, the more you study and the more you research and the more you reflect on the things that we've seen, you come to the realization that there are things that are so spiritual in nature that are in plain sight.
Ruby Durham joining us now. Ruby, a video shot at Levine Children's is going viral, even catching the eye of E! News.
That's right. Just take a look. Nurses there going viral, posting a TikTok video dancing to "We're All in This Together" on social media. And I have to say, definitely made me smile this morning, not only because they were dancing, but because they were doing it together. A lot of nurses don't know each other. A lot of nurses are helping each other, getting to know each other as they're working on the front line. So I just love that they were able to take the time out to just have a little fun and let their hair down. All right, our next story this morning to make you smile. First responders with the Monroe Fire Department spreading a little joy ahead of Easter.
And that was framed as people having joy and relaxing and unwinding. But it gets worse than that. When you go and you continue to look, it was all over the place. Now these I can't play audio on because of the YouTube copyright, but let me just zoom in. And this was all over the United States. It was actually all over the world. Nurses doing TikTok dances. And have you ever considered what it means to dance? Why they were doing these dances? What made them pick these dances? Why are you dancing on rooftops? What are you doing? I mean, what are you doing? Why are you doing?
So his theory goes into how spirits can take over the body.
Okay, I'm going to leave it off there. There's still 40 minutes left in this video if you'd like to watch it on your own, because I gotta shut her down soon. My video's getting too long, and I'll leave the links to everything else. And this is part 2 of the next digital economy, and yeah. So next show, I think we'll have a look at this paper by the Information Communication Telecommunications the Information and Communications Technology Council, where all the information and communications technology, that's where the big money is at, as Sabrina said. Anyway, you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.